Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. Let's get started with our hosts, Linda McKissick and Dana Gentry.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. I'm Linda McKissick.
And I'm Dana Gentry.
Hey, Dana, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Are you in Kentucky or where are you?
I'm in Kentucky. Yep, I got here yesterday.
I love your bookshelf behind you with all
I've got my color coordinated books and half the stuff back here you've probably given me that are signs and stuff all over the place.
You are color coordinated. I love it. Do you organize yourself or do you have somebody do that?
I did these. I typically do that like on a sleepless night.
Yeah. Did you read a book about color coding or how'd you figure out?
No, I watched those dang home edit chicks.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I watched them too. And I loved them while I was watching them. And then that was all I ever did with it. I gave my sister a few ideas, hoping she would do it. I love that.
I watched them and now I want to color code and label and clear bucket everything.
My problem is I'd probably go out and buy a bunch of extra books because they were a color.
Right.
I don't have enough yellow books. Let me go buy some more.
Right.
That's funny. That's awesome. All right. So today we're going to talk about another question that we got submitted. And this is about how do you figure out the particular roles and when you're working together with a partner or significant other or whatever, how do you figure out each other's roles? And I think I've probably gotten this question a lot, especially from couples, because, I think people just jump in and work together without really spending any time on the front end saying, what are your strengths? What are your unique abilities? What would you be good at? What did you do in the past? One gets in. I know with Jimmy and I, when he got in after me, he immediately, because he'd used to having all these people work for him, he wanted to manage me. Well, I didn't want a manager. I needed somebody to go to work. I was covered up in business, right? Like a lot of realtors are. So I think the very first, and this is why I love people following the Red Book. On this particular couple that's asked me this before, the first question I ask them is, have you read the Red Book? Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, because it's such a great blueprint. And I always love it because if you have a model you're following, it's not me trying to convince you to do it my way or you trying to convince me for you to do it your way. What does the model say we need to do? Yep. And I'm so surprised at either the people that have not read it, the people, and so many people contribute their success to it. And then there'll still be a ton of people that haven't read it. And then there'll be people that have read it and they pick and choose from it. They don't follow it completely.
So true.
They forget parts of it, right?
Yep. I've been guilty of that too. I think at some point until you really get it, you are. Yeah.
And I think a lot of times too, because we're waiting so long that we need such help that we need somebody. And I'm bad about this when I hire a person. And Sarah's really been helping me because we're looking for a new executive assistant now. And she's really helped me say, well, do you really think one person is going to be able to do all of those things really well? And if not, which ones of those things are you really most wanting out of someone? And so I have a tendency to go back to that. So I'm really glad I have her there kind of as a guardrail to say, look, okay, that's kind of unrealistic. Yeah. And so I know when Jimmy and I started working together, I wanted him to do all the stuff I hated, but the problem was he hated all the same things. He did. And so I think if someone knows you're only doing it for a short period of time, you can pretty much do anything for a short period of time. So if you got that blueprint laying out there and you say, okay, right now we're at stage one where we're just a single agent, but we're kind of a couple, then we kind of have to do everything. Yep. All right. But as soon as we can, we're going to hire that admin. All right. So who's going to be in charge of the admin or what are you more of a process person? Or are you more of a salesperson? Are you happiest if you're out with the people or you're happiest if you're behind the desk? And I think when we start trying to make our significant other or a partner, or with partners, the thing I've seen over the years that really is bad is they just decide two agents are going to go together. And in one's mind, the expectation is, oh, this person's going to bring all this business. And that's not what the other person does, or that's not what their expectation of what they're going to do. So anytime you combine two people together, sitting down and figuring out what are you most wanting to get from this partnership and what are your expectations of me and my results are the best thing you can do. Because what happens is That's one thing I see happen. The second thing I see happen is they take an admin behavioral type person, not anybody like setting the world on fire, just an admin, and they immediately promise them partnership or make them a partner. And for what you could pay $20, $30 an hour for, you're now splitting 50% of the business with. So those are a couple things I see that get in people's way when they start trying to work with another person or a spouse or whatever.
You said something that made me think of one thing I didn't have written down, which is in the beginning, it's kind of like in real estate, and I always tell new agents this, you kind of shift in the beginning. You have a lot of time, but you don't have as much money. So the way the things that you're focusing on in your job description or your priorities is different. And then at some point your business shifts and you've got the money, but you don't have the time. So it flip-flops again. And I think when you're working with someone else or a partner or a spouse or whatever that looks like, you kind of have to figure out which of those phases are you in? Are you in the time where you need more money, or are you in the time where you need more time? And then that, I think, helps you break down being able to work together and really define your roles. We've talked about this before, but I have been quarterly using that unique ability worksheet of getting everybody to list all the 40 things that you do in one day. And then which ones do you like really excel in and you're passionate about them? They give you energy, versus which ones are you just great at and you don't really get energy, or the other ones that are like blah, or the other ones are like you suck and you don't ever need to do it again.
Yeah. And what you're talking about is from the book Shannon Waller and Dan Sullivan wrote called Unique Ability. Yeah. And it's funny you said that because we just went through that with our Leadership Academy, you and I and Jimmy and Press. And it was really a cool exercise. And on the way home, I said to Sarah, on the new EA, we're going to put this on the front end of the hiring process. We're going to list all, and we're going to let them decide what's their ideal job description.
I love that.
On what kind of task would give you energy, what's just neutral, and what would annoy you and drain your energy. Totally. I said, why wouldn't we just put it on the front end? Because I always do it after I hire someone, but why wouldn't I add it on the front end so that I get real clear about what's going to give them energy and motivate them and excite them to come to work every day.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a great idea. I've been trying to get everybody that's on our staff in our offices and on the team just to really figure out what is their true unique ability, because I just don't want people staying in roles that aren't their unique ability, because they're either not going to last or they're going to be drained. You just aren't at your best, and so we've really been focusing on that, which this question is applicable to me right now because we're redoing so many job roles and so many job descriptions. And really, we have one person on a team, on leadership team of 4 offices out of like 23 team members that actually is passionate about and enjoys cutting the commission checks and like paying the agents. The other MCAs, that's their least favorite part. I mean, they like talking with the agents and helping the agents and doing some of the other things, but they don't like doing the checks. Well, this one person, they actually love that. So we're about to do something different. I mean, I'm going to take her out. She's strictly just going to pay people for all of the offices. And then those other MCAs are going to be support to the team leaders and be able to really help their agents and do the things that are in their unique ability. Because if she's purposeful with her time, and that's the thing that gives her energy and she loves, there's no reason why she can't just do them all, because she can do it remote and figure out a way to get people more in their unique ability. But it is hard to get clear on job roles. And one thing that I wrote down is we've been making a list of what has to be done in the job. And then what would be things that would be awesome if we like could do them in the job. And then figuring out, okay, if these are the must get dones, like have to do non-negotiables, then how can we split up those duties, or like whose role is what? Because there's certain things that have to get done, whether you're running a team or you're a solo agent or you're running an office or whatever it is. And so figuring out what are those have tos, and then everything else. Okay, who could pick that up if they had extra time, or who could do this if it really was their unique ability. But we're figuring out right now, okay, here's the 56 things that have to be done every day. And then who's going to do all those? And then the extra stuff, we'll just add it in there.
Are you finding when you do that, Dana, that there's a list that nobody likes to do, or no?
A couple things. And we hired to that. Like at one point last year, we had that nobody on the team really liked to do social media except for me. And I was the one that really probably didn't need to be doing it all the time, because it was taking me out of that was a thing that I was great at and I loved, but it doesn't move the needle forward for all of us. I'm best served being in front of agents. And
Right.
so we hired Abby as a marketing director because she loves it and she's awesome and she crushes it. I mean, so we've been trying to figure out, okay, that was probably the one thing that we found that nobody on the team liked it. They just weren't good at it. They didn't like it. But other than that, no, it's almost kind of balanced out that everybody kind of likes, to do different things and some of them overlap. But we're like, okay, if we have to get these things done, we have to have people that have to do those. And for me, social media was one of those because we have to tell our story and we have to recognize our people.
Right.
So we just we had to hire to it.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I think what a common theme we have here is, a common model and a goal, making sure that, because, I've met people where where one is holding the other one back because they're behaviorally opposite of each other. And that's, to me, is the saddest thing, because that's like pushing and pulling and you're not moving, you're not rowing in the same direction. Right. So I think a common goal model. And I think the other thing, Dana, again, and I've said this on the podcast before, is especially if it's a couple or significant other, sit down and say, what are we trying to get our life to look like? Because that's where you get hope and inspiration and get excited. And, what do you want? What are we wanting our life to look like? And if we both want something different, then we have to be willing to make space for both of those things to happen, right? Like if I want more than Jimmy wants, he has to be willing to say, okay, let's go for the more that you want because I'll get what I want along the way. And I have watched real couples in real estate where one wasn't willing to do that. And I just look at him and said, look, until you guys do that, I can't help you do anything else because I can't do that part for you guys. You have to do that part. And until you do it, I can't help you move forward.
It kind of reminds me of what Gary told us that one time in the meeting, where there's two different kinds of people. One person wakes up every day and wants to achieve and wants more. And the other person likes to wake up and keep safe what they already have. Yeah. And he said a lot of times when it's spouses that are opposite of that, you have to really get on the same page with knowing that the other one is like that and saying, okay, well, here's what I'm going to do on my part to keep what we have safe and comfortable. And now I know that you want to keep achieving. So here's what you can do. It's almost, because remember, Gary said he was the one, and then his wife was the one who wanted to keep safe what they already had.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think about my first marriage, my first realization that it wasn't going to work is I wanted to learn and grow, and he just did not want that to even be a possibility. Right. And, and I wanted to have, nice furniture, even though we had an old house we were living in. I wanted nice furniture in it. He's like, you don't put nice furniture in an old house. I'm like, yes, you do. So I'm like, red flags started going up. And I realized that I think the worst thing anyone could do in my situation would be to try to hold me back. And I have to say, I'm so blessed because he has never in a million years, ever tried to say, enough ideas already, are you going to work out again? Are you going to fly here or do that? I'm never, not one time. And I'm so thankful because I think that's where it's never going to work, is if the other person just absolutely does not make any space for how the other person is.
Well, then you start to resent. I mean, then resentment sets in, and then it's all downhill.
Yeah. Have you heard I don't know if I said this in Fierce before, but resentment is like drinking rat poison and waiting for the rat to die.
Oh yeah.
I love that.
True though.
Yeah. So I think clarity about what you're even, what inspires you to get up and build a real estate business in the first place. What are you trying to get to? And the other thing, but with the couple I was talking with last week, the problem was too, there was not enough reward. And I said this before to Anna when she was selling. I'm like, you've got to take some of that money and see the fruits of it. You've got to do, what do you want from that? What's going to excite you and motivate you to go do more? It's really funny. It's like, I learned myself well enough to know that if I'm not inspired towards something, I just go, but if I'm really excited, or if I want something that's really big, I'll go figure out how to make the money and get it. Right. So everybody has to figure out what inspires you to go work this hard. And I think in one situation I saw, he just would take the money and go put it in the account because he was very money conscious and conservative. And I'm like, but she's going to get burnt out and quit because she's not going to sit here and do this. And I'm not, and I got to a place where I never even actually cashed my own real estate checks. They went into an account, my assistant did it. I didn't touch them. I still don't really touch the money. Somebody else is handling that, but I know it's there. And I know for the things that motivate and energize me, I can spend it for that.
I love that so much and you just made me think of something. So I haven't even told Adam this yet, but hopefully he won't listen to this podcast before Christmas. But I did just order us something. So you know how in your office you have your like mission statement on that plaque, and it's help real estate entrepreneurs have blah, 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 blah. I don't have it memorized, but I know what it is. One day Adam and I sat down because we were kind of on opposite pages with that, on what we were really trying to, achieve, or kind of just how to get there and all those things. So we sat down and we really wrote out like what our mission was. We came up with our value words and then our vision. And I won't read you the whole thing because some of it's longer, but I'm excited it hasn't come in yet. I just ordered this like huge thing on Etsy, one for the house, one for the office. But we came up with together, our vision is leading a big yet simple life that utilizes our unique God-given talents to move forward each day with the actions, habits, and intentionality necessary for us to live out God's calling and leave a legacy beyond us, ultimately to be good stewards of our time, talent, and treasures.
I love it.
Thanks. And really, when we looked at all that, it was kind of, that sums it all up. I mean, we really do that's our vision. That's why we get up and do it every day. And I think without that, before we actually put that into like a sentence and we both were on the same page with it, it was easier for one of us to say, well, why are you doing that? Or, oh, you're doing that again, or, well, why are you talking to those people? That's not going to get you anywhere, or whatever. I mean, it was just like, but now we know that and we're more on the same page with it. And I feel like we have a clearer just vision of, okay, this is what we're going to do together. And here's especially when it comes to working together, and here's how we're going to get there. And here's why. And so I think I would just challenge everybody. Maybe if you're working, it doesn't have to be your spouse, your significant other, or your spouse. It could be your partner, but really going back to what your mission is, what your vision is, and what your value words are. Terry was the one who gave me the idea of the value words because some of his were opposite of some of mine. And we just kind of had to mesh them together.
Yeah, I love that. So it made me think of something, sitting down and figuring out, where are you different? But is it behavior? Is it value words? Is it time? How you spend your time? Yep. Where are the places that you're different? And then the other thing I wrote down is always having someone in your life that if you're at an impasse with your partner or your significant other or whoever, you can call on that person and let them shed light on what each of you can't see. Right. So I used to laugh and say, if Jimmy and I didn't agree on something, if it was a business thing, I'd say, well, let's just call Gary Keller and whatever he says we'll do. And if it was a like relationship or anything like that, I'd say, well, let's just call Tommy Nelson because he was our pastor at the time. Yeah. Just call Tommy Nelson and whatever he says we'll do. And then sometimes we'd call Dr. Gross. And like, if we couldn't agree, like one time we couldn't agree on, how much do you provide for your kids once they're out of college and all that stuff. So we called Dr. Gross, and the cool thing is he didn't prove either one of us right. He let us both of us see things differently. We came up with a great solution together. So having people in your life, like either spiritually, financially, business, whatever, that you can just say, hey, we're at an impasse. You and I don't, keep trying to hash this out, because people don't mind solving problems. They just hate solving the same old problem over and over. And that's what tends to happen. Or you do what we talk about in Fierce, where you just get to a place where you just won't talk about it at all because it's not a fun conversation. You don't want to ruin the weekend. So you just say, well, forget it. We're just not even going to talk about it anymore.
That's so true. That is so, so true. And you really do get to that point. I mean, I can think of just even a month ago, Adam said, okay, it's September. And every month I have to ask you 8 times for your credit card statements. And because, he's supposed to be doing all this stuff. And I'm like, look, here's the thing. I'm never going to do it. If I didn't do it, it's not going to happen. So right. We need to figure out somebody else to get my password and log in and do this every month, or you're going to keep being frustrated and you're going to keep asking me and I'm going to keep not doing it. So we've got to figure out what the system is around it. And we did. And now this very nice, sweet lady does it every month. But it's just like, sometimes, when you're not, you have to just, I love the calling somebody else and asking. And actually, I even said that to Terry one time and she said, well, figure out who the heck else is going to do, but it's so true, because it does, you get sick of talking about the same thing, over and over. It's like, okay, let's just figure out how to solve it and be over it.
Yeah. And a great point on that is, and I have a saying very similar to what I always say this, if I was going to do it, I would have already. Yes. So everybody on your team or your partner or your significant other understanding rather than you getting frustrated with me because I don't do it, or me getting frustrated with you on something that you don't do that I think you should do, why don't we immediately let that be kind of code blue for we got to get a system or a who? It's either a system or a who when we're at an impasse. And because I think what happens is you build up the frustration, because for Adam, it's probably not that hard to go find his flipping statement, Me, I don't even know where the statements are, and I don't want to know. So I think that's the best thing you can do is just make a rule that I'm not going to get frustrated with you. You're not going to get frustrated with me. We're going to figure out, okay, if it was simple or easy or motivating or energizing to go get the stupid statement, do that, you would have done it already. It's not motivating, it's not energizing, it's down there in the annoying list. So if it's
he's like, you log on to the app, Dana. All you have to do is log. I'm like, I don't even have the app. Like, this isn't to know.
I love it. But I think too, having the respect for each other.
Yeah.
I know, because I've worked with spouse, some of the people listening might be with partners, but I think the same thing helps. I always say, I told this couple last week that we were trying to work with, I just said, look, one of the best things I ever did was do the Song of Solomon that Tommy Nelson is so famous for teaching all over the country, because women want love and men want respect.
Yeah.
And so when I could stop, and think, is this respectful? Either what I'm about to say or what I expect or whatever. And if I can just learn to respect the other person, whoever they are, and not get frustrated because they are not me, they will not be me. Yep. And thank God they're not me, because we don't need to with me. And what can I do? And I think if you go ahead and set those things out up front, because otherwise you're just frustrated and mad, and it builds up and builds up and builds up. And you might really ruin a really good thing that could be salvaged and could get both of you rowing in the right direction if you just kind of work out a few of those things, maybe even on the front end.
Yeah, that's great advice. Very true.
Awesome. Well, would there be any last advice that you would give anybody who's working with someone else, or maybe it's even your team members, about, getting clear on your roles and who does what and expectations of the other person? I
don't think so. We covered a lot. I think the only other thing, I'm just looking through my notes. Okay. The only other thing I wrote down that we didn't talk about, but we've done plenty of podcast episodes on this, so you can go back and listen to them. But I really think that you need to find out if you are an implementer or the visionary or the simplifier or the multiplier, and what the other one is. And there's no right or wrong. It doesn't matter either way, but you just need to know it. And then that way you can move forward. And because if you have two implementers, then you're going to need somebody that's a visionary. Or if you have two of you that are multipliers, you're going to have to find somebody that can simplify. I think you just really need to know that. That's the only other thing I had written down.
Oh, and I'd only add one more thing. Both of you go to the same training. Don't let the other person go and come back and try to tell you what they learned and what you're going to implement. The policy needs to be, we both go.
Yeah.
And we both bring our ideas back and figure out what our role is in implementing those great ideas. That'd be the last thing I would add.
Yep. Love it. Perfect.
Oh, great episode, Dana. Thank you so much. And remember, if you have a question, a challenge, or an opportunity that you'd like for Dana and I discussed on the podcast, be sure and reach out to us at info@everything life and real estate. And if you haven't, please hit subscribe. We'd love to hear a 5-star review from you. And if you have anybody that you think that would benefit from our Dana and I conversations, be sure and pass our podcast along. And Dana, I guess I'll see you next week.
Okay, sounds good. See you then.
Be sure to subscribe for more business strategies and tactics to inspire you to live an abundant real estate life. Don't forget to rate and review so we can bring you the best content. Find this and other valuable information at everythinglifeandrealestate.com.